Hey, how you doing?
Can't complain, man. How you doing today?
Doing really good. It's been a good day.
Absolutely. So, just to give the viewers a little bit of background, you're originally from the United States and you moved to Portugal, and now you teach kids how to code.
Yeah, that's correct. We've made the transition to move from the Chicago area in the United States to Lisbon, Portugal here, to be closer to my wife's family, and we've been here 3 months, so we're still adapting and learning as we go.
And it definitely seems like a major move. Was there any like culture shocks there?
Well, I have to say the Portuguese people are very nice here. They're very welcoming, and it's been a great experience here. Culture shock. I've been to Europe before, so I was aware of some things, but there are things that are unique to Portugal that I'm still getting used to.
Absolutely. So, like, what is the process like of actually moving overseas? Like, if somebody wanted to get out the states and maybe move to Portugal as well, like, what does that actually look like?
Yeah, so the process, well, I'd always recommend that if somebody's looking at, at making a move like that is uh, hiring a consultant that can kind of guide them through the process of obtaining residency. There's many different types of visas and residency permits and things like that. Portugal, I believe they're doing away with the digital nomad visa, which is one that was available for like digital tech workers. They may also be doing away with the golden visa, which is where if you bring enough capital to Portugal, maybe start a business, invest in real estate, you can get a visa to live here. But the program that we went through is, my wife working for a Portuguese company, so sponsorship. So that's probably one of the faster routes is to get sponsorship from a Portuguese company.
Absolutely. So she worked for a Portuguese company, but for you, how difficult was it for you to find a job over there?
Well, right now I'm doing freelance software engineering contracts and teaching kids how to code. That's very new for me. I'm just starting that up. And happy to announce that I just released a children's book that's been published today in paperback form on Amazon. It's called Codey the Toad's Computer Game Adventures. So just teaches kids the main parts of a computer and how they work at a very, very high level. The age group is 6 to 8 years old.
Oh, wow. So like I know teaching adults and kids is a completely different thing because programming is a lot of abstract concepts. You can't necessarily point to something and say, okay, there's this correlation in code. So how do you go about teaching the kids?
I think the main thing about teaching children is to try to use analogies that they can understand, something that they already know, how something works, and then relate that back to tie that back into the technology concept that you're trying to teach. So, like in the book, for example, what I did is I created, this adventure story where Cody the Toad is he hears about a computer game, or what a computer game is, from some other animals in this enchanted forest, but he doesn't really know what a computer game is, or he doesn't really know how a computer works. And so he embarks on this like magical adventure and goes to these different realms. And each of the different realms has a master that is kind of like teaching him the different computer operations at a very high level. So there's, the Enchanted Forest, then he travels through Motherboard Meadow and Storage Springs, Memory Mountain, and then finally reaches Pixel Plateau. And his goal along the way is to learn how to create a computer game of his own imagination. So that's kind of an overview of the book, and kind of those analogies that I just explained are a good way to tie in for teaching purposes.
Yeah, it sounds really interesting. Now, how have kids been responding to it?
Good. It's just been released, so far I've tested it on my daughter and she loved it. So I've gotten a few good reviews from other folks that have read it online. Right now, it's just got 3 reviews on Amazon. So definitely hoping that more people pick it up and review it, and always looking for feedback to see how I could make things better in the future.
Yeah, it definitely seems interesting. How was the actual process of writing the book? Like, what made you want to get into it, and was it difficult to stay focused?
So the process of writing the book, it happened organically. Um, I didn't decide to write a book. What I was working on was creating the course curriculum for my programming classes for kids. And
Mm.
as I was doing that, I was working on these analogies and creating, like these stories that I would tell children in the classes. And I ran the ideas by my wife, and my wife has a background in education, teaching. She's got a PhD from UCLA, and she's a great writer as well. And so, well, I'm not saying I'm a good writer. I don't know if I'm a good writer. We'll see what the reviews say, but she's a great writer. Um, and she took a look at what I had, and she said, this isn't a programming course. This is a book. And so I was like, wow, you're right. Maybe this would be a good way to get the word out. And so then I just started writing, and I wrote straight through. I think it took me like a week to get the first like very choppy edition out, or the first choppy, and then there was just a ton of changes and editing, and then the illustrations and things like that, and then getting it actually published on Amazon. There's a lot of nuances to that. There's a lot of details you have to be aware of, and then like the main thing is the formatting, so that Amazon, when you upload the file, it can process, and it renders right on a Kindle device, or it's printed properly for the paperback book. So that's kind of that's been my journey along the way.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So like I know it's important for kids to really learn programming as we move into a more and more technological age. But what got you into programming? Did you start as a kid as well?
I started using computers as a kid and had an interest in computers, but when when I really started to research computers and how they work and teach myself how to code, because I'm a self-taught
Hmm.
programmer. My background is in finance and marketing, but one of my first experiences out of school was I worked at Thomson Reuters, and I worked on the financial markets desk. So basically, they had data feeds, and they were feeding the data on the stock ticker symbols for all the global major exchanges around the world. So, like for example, the New York Stock Exchange. And so I was on the technical desk, and I'd get calls, and from traders on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange. They would say, "Hey, what's going on with this ticker symbol?" And like I would troubleshoot it to a certain extent, elevate it, and create a ticket if it was a certain level of triage. And then there was a guy on the other side of the room, and he was a computer programmer, very good, and he had like a red phone on his desk, and the red phone was for like super emergency things, like where traders were losing like millions of dollars per second because some ticker symbol wasn't updating properly. So I started talking to that guy, and he got me interested in technology and computers. I started asking him a lot of questions, and he got me so interested in it. I started studying it. I started studying Linux on Debian, and then I started studying PHP and Apache servers, and running that stack. And then, more recently, been progressed into, well, from that time, and then I progressed into a couple of professional jobs as a PHP programmer for a web shop, an ad agency. And then I worked at the University of Illinois in Urbana-Champaign as a kind of like a one-man band to maintain their website, database, and then back-end office applications for this joint project between the DMV and the Health Sciences Division to help people get their sign up for courses, basically for their motorcycle driver's licenses.
Yeah, it's a really interesting transition. I come from an accounting background as well. So like, was there like any fear in making the transition over, or was it just like I just love coding so much, I got to pursue this?
I really loved solving the problems. Like I felt like the feeling of solving the issues and like the more difficult problems, the harder they were, the longer they took to solve, the more satisfaction I got. So I really wanted to make the transition into coding, and so I did that for some time. And then later I transitioned into technology sales, and I did software sales, like software as a service sales out in California for many years. And I worked alongside like solutions architects who would design data centers and like all the pieces of the data center, and I learned about all that, like the hardware, software, services, and things like that, and writing out statements of work and contracts. And so now I have that knowledge now. So on the software contract side and software engineering contract side, I've got the groundwork already done, and understand how that process works.
So I know you were working like a full-time job before. How did you make time to teach yourself coding? And what was it like getting your first job? Like, did you have to do like 10,000 interviews? Or how did that go?
I was just networking. It's always like in my life, I've tried to network as much as possible, and I feel like landing that next job is maybe like, whoa, it's like the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon. Like if maybe you just know somebody at the third degree, somebody through somebody else, put in a good word for you, or just mention your name, that hey, somebody's sending you an email, you should take a look at it, and things like that. Those are what landed me at the jobs along the way in my career, for the most part.
Yeah, I find networking is incredibly important because, just from being visible on LinkedIn, I've met so many interesting people. They've recommended me opportunities. And, typically software engineers were more antisocial. So were you always like more of an extrovert, or how did you get out of that shell if you were an introvert and to be able
Yeah.
to do it?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm more of an introvert really by nature. I like spending time alone, quite a bit. I do need that like alone time for myself to like kind of just like chill. And social situations like can cause some anxiety for me. So, I really, when I transitioned from the programming and did the sales jobs, I was still doing the programming on the side with personal projects, but when I was doing the selling, that's what really broke me out of my shell. It forced me to, get on the phone and make cold calls to people I didn't
Mm.
know, send emails, face tons of rejection, and it eventually just built up this kind of resilience in me where I don't get as embarrassed anymore. So that was helpful.
Yeah, that's really interesting you say that because I think the only way to get over it is just to do it, and then you kind of realize that it's the rejection isn't as bad as you think. Like they're not going to curse you out. Well, sometimes they will, but uh,
Yeah.
it's usually it's just like, oh no, thank you, and then it's just like that. So
Yeah.
for someone who's kind of like currently an introvert, how do you recommend like they get out more, and like what kind of networking events should they be looking at to really like open up their job opportunities?
Yeah, I would say that, try to find like technology meetups in your local area, or join technology groups on Facebook or technology groups on LinkedIn, and start sending messages, just friendly messages like, hey, just wanted to introduce myself. I'm interested in networking, and I noticed that you do A, B, C, and that interests me because one, two, three, something like that. And then maybe they'll accept your message and you can start a conversation.
Absolutely. I have a question. If is there a way to simplify 4 divided by pi? An example: 4 plus 4 divided by pi divided by 9. Since that part is 5 plus x divided by 9. Yeah, I have no idea about that one.
I don't know either. No, it's an interesting question.
Yeah, if any mathematicians are watching, please try to tackle that one. So like speaking of sales, like when you first started, since you were naturally introverted, like how did you feel? Like was it like just intense, like an intense amount of fear, and then as you started making more and more calls, it started becoming more natural?
It depends on the role that I had. So I had some roles that were more relaxed and like not as much pressure, and then I had some roles that were like very high performance sales roles. So in the beginning, what I tried to do was just try to get the dials done first, because that was the hardest thing to do, to pick up the phone. And I always found it like, if you can just make that first call, you know the next call is not going to be as hard to make, and you can do 20 or 30 in a row, take a break and do another 20 or 30 in a row. I worked for a startup company in Los Angeles that was called Signal Sciences, and they were an application security company. And I was a business development representative, and we'd make 100 calls a day, send 300 emails a day, through automated systems and stuff like that. And we were all standing up, calling on the phone in like a block of desks. And I found that to be pretty stressful, because it was like you're forced to be in that group environment. Your performance is constantly being heard by everyone around you. So for someone who's an introvert, that's definitely not the ideal situation. But, you know, when you put yourself out there and do things like that, it helps you grow as a person and professionally as well.
Absolutely. I kind of recommend people develop like complementary skills to coding, like sales, because
Mhm.
like say for example, you want to start your freelancing business. I'm sure that came in as like that was invaluable, just being able to reach out and start calling and pitching your services.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really helpful, because, if that I mean, it wouldn't be a bad idea for somebody who's a junior coder to do like a part-time sales job and just interact with people or something like that, if they were kind of in between jobs or something, and they wanted to break into coding, but they want to develop those social skills. Sales might not be a bad way to do that.
Is most sales, is it like just like mostly a number game, or is it more so like techniques, or is like kind of like a mixture of both?
There's like very like many opinions on like the best way to go about prospecting or like making sales. Some people, believe in like more volume, more volume, more volume, but a lot of the automation software is becoming so sophisticated that the amount of spam that people are getting is just really um, creating so much noise that people are just shutting everybody down. So, what seems to be working these days are like highly personalized and tailored outreaches. So, like Dale Dupree, I follow him on LinkedIn, and he's done something before where he like creates a custom illustration, which is like a book cover of the company that he's trying to market to and the person he's trying to market to, and they're saving the day by implementing the solution that he's selling, and it's creating this, like, it's like a superhero book cover, and he physically mails that to them, and they get it, and he emails and calls them, and there's a much higher response rate when you put in some kind of insane amount of effort like that, so it's
Yeah.
like those very creative ways can really get your foot in the door, not just with sales, but with those interviews as well. If you think about, people are people, so if you want to open the door for an interview, if you want to open the door for a new position, get creative.
No, that's a great suggestion. I know a lot of people are getting laid off. I was one of them. Some people are looking to start their own consultancy. Maybe they feel like, overlooked by corporate America. Like if you were starting from scratch, how would you go about, say you have a couple of years of experience in the industry, how would you go about starting your own consultancy, getting clients?
It really it really depends on budget.
Mm.
If you're trying to like do something very scrappy, then it's got to be something like very low marketing budget, and very little investment in tools. So that's going to limit the potential for growth, for fast growth. So patience would be the biggest thing that you could the biggest virtue that you'd need to have if you want to build it. You'd have to play the long game there and slowly build up over time. You'd probably want to reach out to friends and family first to spread the word, and then ask for referrals. Like, hey, if you know anyone that's looking for this type of work, if you refer me to them and they do business with me, I can give you some kind of incentive for that referral. That way, they keep you on your mind as you're going about doing that. So I think friends and family would probably be first, and then try to network through referrals and things like that.
Absolutely. So, like with teaching the kids, the tech industry, there's so much change. Like, what are you kind of teaching them to prepare them for the future? Like, is it like, are you leaning toward like AI and that kind of thing, or are you just pretty much focused on the fundamentals?
Right now, I'm offering basic and intermediate level courses, but they're custom tailored. And so, my goal is to create custom tailored courses that are based upon the learner's age, their skill level, and their technological interests. That way, we can boost engagement and have a lot of fun along the way. Because I want the kids to have as much fun as possible, so that they feel like, man, this is too hard. I feel like giving up. If they're having fun along the way and they're solving some things little pieces at a time, then I think that's a win. Um, yeah.
Are your courses like online, or is it like in person in Portugal?
It's remote. It's remote online, so we could do it over Zoom. And the course descriptions are posted on my website, adamhott.io, adamhott.io, under the programming classes for kids. We've, like the basic course, the intermediate course, and then I do have project-based courses which are more involved. So there's like 4 tracks that I'm offering for that. So that's game development, sound design, and music technology, blockchain, and then robotics. So those are like highly tailored for maybe more advanced learners that really want to take on something that's a little bit more difficult and would be a longer course, but at the end they would have some kind of like major accomplishment, like build a robot, or make their own cryptocurrency or something like that. So those are the more advanced courses that I'm offering.
So, are the courses live, or is it like pre-recorded?
Oh yeah, they're live. Yeah, I want to be one on one with the kids so that they can get the most out of it and really make sure that they're engaged and having fun.
So I know like there's kind of like a huge time zone difference like between the U.S. and Portugal. Like, are people like, if someone from the U.S. wants to sign their kids up, are they able to do that? Like, do y'all kind of like really work around their schedule?
Yeah, to a certain extent, I can work around their schedule in the U.S. Depends on what time zone they're in. I mean, there is a little bit of overlap in the schedule throughout the day here. So, and then like there's also like 10,000 U.S. expats that live in Portugal. So that's also a market that I'm targeting, because there's so many um, expats that come from the U.S. or from an English speaking country, and then they come here and their children start to lose their English because they're not practicing it. So teaching the programming classes in English is a way to complement both things at the same complement the programming, but with the English as well. So
So like, what does the process look like of somebody like being able to take the class? First, they sign up, and then what happens next?
Yeah, it was just a simple conversation via whatever channel that parents feel comfortable with, asking some basic questions about the skill level and the technological interest of the child, what kind of computer courses that they've already completed, or what programming languages they already have some experience in, and then they would fill out an enrollment form on the website, which you can find on the website. That would go to me and just review that, and then I would say, hey, this is what we could do, and provide options, and then see if they have interest, then we can talk further about scheduling.
Are there any specific programming languages you like to focus on in the classes?
Well, for the younger learners, the programming concepts should really be taught in Scratch Junior or Scratch by MIT. These are applications that allow you to drag and drop block elements which contain, like, something that code would do, like, let's say, move a character on the screen by 10 pixels to the right on the x-axis, and then have the character say hello, and you just drag and drop those blocks into the application, and then you play the animation or create the game, and it does it for you. So you teach those basic concepts using those more simple programs, and then once the younger learners start to develop that fundamental knowledge, then they can move into programming languages like Python, and then look at things like robotics, like, for example, with the Raspberry Pi, which is, really cool. Lots of stuff you can do with that, and program in Python on the Pi for that.
So I know you primarily focus on kids, but for like older folks who wanting to get into the industry, do you have any advice for them?
Yeah, I would say that, everyone learns differently. Everyone has a different learning style, so I think it's important to identify the type of learner that you are. If you're a visual learner, and you need to see a video, then maybe look at Udemy. Or if you're more of a book person, and you do well with books, then look at Kindle books. They're a little bit more affordable. And you know, uh, if a person wanted to take a course, there's like, for adults, there's websites like Thumbtack, for example, where they can pay an instructor one-on-one for adult lessons.
Absolutely. I think that's all the questions I have for you, man. If you don't mind sharing the audience, what is your website again?
Oh yeah, it's adamhott.io. So ADAMHOTT.io is the website. Yeah,
And what
that's
is the name of your book for those who may have missed it?
yeah, it's Codey the Toad, and Cody spelled Codey. Uh, Cody the Toad's Computer Game Adventure.
The Toad's Computer Game Adventure. Yeah, man, I definitely appreciate you coming on the show. Did you have any closing thoughts for the audience?
No, I know there's a lot of layoffs going on, and I know there's a lot of people struggling out there. I would just say that continue to work on your dreams, keep learning, and get creative with your networking. Get out there, and do some things that other people aren't doing, to try to get your foot in the door. That's my closing comment.
Also, are you on LinkedIn, and is the audience free to connect with you?
I'd love that. Yeah, feel free. And any questions you have, happy to interact.
Absolutely. Thank you for coming on the show, and thank you everybody for tuning in. We'll catch y'all next time. Peace.